Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something pretty fundamental. How do we become more than who we think we are right now?
Yeah, it's a big question.
It is. And our main source for this exploration is a really compelling conversation. It features Thuy Minh, who's a respected spiritual teacher, and Thuy Minh, a major voice in Vietnamese media.
Right. And our goal here really is to pull out the key ideas from what they talked about.
Potent stuff.
Exactly. Things that shed light on, personal growth, how our emotions work, expanding our awareness.
And dealing with those comfort zones we all get stuck in.
Comfort zones, and also how we handle life when it throws curveballs at us. Basically, we want to give you that essential roadmap to going beyond oneself, but, without getting lost in the weeds.
Okay, sounds good. So let's jump right into a core theme they explore, developing our emotional intelligence. Now you might think, okay, I know my emotions, but 2D meaning suggests there's always, deeper levels.
Yeah, it's interesting. He emphasizes two main ways, two paths to get to this deeper understanding, and they're connected.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first is about consciously returning to your feelings, actually practicing tuning in to what's happening inside in your body, in your mind, when emotions pop up.
So not immediately judging them or trying to fix them.
Exactly. It's about allowing them to just be there, watching them, almost like you're an observer, without suppressing them, but also without messing with them too much right away.
Like becoming a neutral observer of your own internal weather system. Why is that helpful?
Well, because it helps you start to understand where those emotions actually come from.
Yeah.
Why does that specific comment make you angry this time, but maybe not last time?
Looking for the roots.
Right. This kind of self-questioning often uncovers the beliefs and assumptions underneath it all, the things that shape how you react emotionally. It's like tracing the feeling back to the thought behind it.
Okay, that makes sense. And the second path?
The second one is about deliberately looking at your core beliefs, your worldview.
Worldview, okay. Like what specifically?
Like, what do you truly believe about happiness, about suffering, about love, about life itself? He suggests really engaging with these big questions through reading, thinking things through, observing the world, observing people, and importantly, through meditation.
Meditation comes up. Is that just about calming down?
Well, that can happen, sure. But here it's presented more as a unique tool, a way to access insights that are maybe beyond your normal day-to-day thinking, beyond just the knowledge you've piled up.
Interesting. Like creating space.
Sort of. Imagine it as a quiet space where those deep-seated assumptions can actually surface, and you can look at them properly. This could lead to, well, a more profound grasp of reality, and from there, you might respond emotionally in a more skillful way.
So clearing out the mental clutter so you can see more clearly. And what's the result of gaining this deeper understanding?
Thuy Minh draws a direct line between this kind of wisdom, this clear understanding, and emotional balance. He suggests that as you mature in how you see yourself and the world, your emotional landscape naturally starts to shift.
Towards more positive states.
Towards more positive and nurturing states, yeah.
So it's not about fighting off negative emotions, but more about cultivating an understanding that maybe lessens their grip or how often they show up.
Precisely. And it's crucial to see this isn't like a final destination you arrive at, right?
Right, it's a journey.
It's absolutely an ongoing process, a continuous exploration, developing yourself, always refining that emotional understanding, and expanding your awareness of your own potential.
And that potential might be way bigger than how we currently see ourselves.
Definitely. Which actually brings up this idea of looking beyond our self-imposed limits that resonates with another influential thinker too.
You mean Yuval Noah Harari, the author of Homo sapiens. What does he say about this?
Harari really hammers home the point that in our crazy, information-overloaded 21st century, the ability to just step back, to find some inner stillness, that's becoming a vital skill, like essential.
And he even has a specific suggestion for scientists, doesn't he? Particularly neuroscientists.
He does. He actually recommends that they learn meditation.
Why? What's the reasoning?
His logic is that by experiencing consciousness directly, not just thinking about it, they can get a perspective on the brain that you just can't get from intellectual analysis alone.
It's like a mechanic actually driving the car, not just looking under the hood.
Exactly. It's understanding how it feels to operate from the inside.
So interesting. Both Thuy Minh and Harari, coming from quite different places, are pointing towards looking beyond our usual mental boxes to understand ourselves better.
And that leads us pretty naturally to thinking about our comfort zones. We all have them, but what's the downside?
Yeah, what's the risk?
Well, the conversation really highlights a major danger: getting stuck, becoming complacent, and actually getting weaker inside that familiar zone.
Weaker. How so?
There's this powerful analogy they use of a tiger in a cage. Over time, it forgets its wildness, its true power.
Ah, I see. So we risk losing our adaptability, our resilience, if we just stay put for too long.
That's the idea. We get stuck in our own self-made cages. It's a strong warning against identifying too much with our current limitations. We mistake comfort for safety, but it can actually lead to stagnation.
And that feeling of stability can be a bit of an illusion anyway, right?
Absolutely. Life is just inherently uncertain. Things change. So the smarter approach, they suggest, is to be proactive. Keep growing, build that inner resilience so you're ready for challenges.
Prepare for change before it knocks you over.
Basically.
But let's be honest, it can be really hard to convince someone to leave their comfort zone if they feel, well, comfortable there.
Oh, definitely. If someone really identifies with how things are now and sees that comfort zone as safe and good, well, the motivation to change often just isn't there.
Not until something forces their hand, maybe.
Exactly. They might not see the point of venturing out until, life gives them a push.
Which brings us to actively cultivating a growth mindset. Fessy Minyam shares some personal stuff here about deliberately choosing difficult situations sometimes, like living simply.
Yeah, for him, those self-imposed challenges were actually chances for really deep learning and growth. And this is important, he also talks about balance.
Balance.
Yeah, those tough periods needed to be mixed with times of peace, times of connection. Otherwise, you just burn out. It's about integrating the lessons, not just enduring hardship.
And difficulty doesn't just mean roughing it physically, does it?
Not at all. It could mean engaging with different kinds of suffering, maybe volunteering with people who are struggling or spending time with those who've gone through emotional trauma.
Those kinds of experiences can really shift your perspective.
Immensely. They can be incredibly powerful for fostering empathy, changing how you see things, and that fuels your own growth.
So for us, listening to this, what are some practical things we can do? How do we actually cultivate this growth mindset day to day?
They mentioned a few concrete exercises. First, just actively reminding yourself about your potential, like consciously acknowledging you're capable of more than you currently think.
Fighting that inner voice that says, this is all I am.
Exactly. Second, setting aside some time each day, maybe just 30 minutes, an hour, for activities that push you outside your normal routine.
Like what kind of activities?
Could be reading books that really challenge your assumptions, watching films that offer totally new viewpoints, practicing meditation, obviously, or even just sitting down and reflecting deeply on what you truly value.
And what's the goal with these activities?
The aim is to uncover new insights, maybe new values, and then try to weave them into how you already see things. It's about expanding yourself.
So consciously shifting your perception.
Yeah, recognizing that those limits you feel, often they're just self-defined. And realizing that a broader, maybe more vibrant life is possible if you dare to step outside them.
Okay, let's dig into this connection between our emotions and how we perceive things. Understanding that seems pretty key to this whole idea of going beyond our current selves.
Right. The conversation really stresses that, emotions are powerful, obviously, but they aren't the whole picture of who you are. There's a deeper awareness that's crucial.
A deeper awareness.
Yeah. And they draw on some Buddhist philosophy here, talking about how emotions come about from consciousness combined with something called tu.
Huyo.
Yeah.
Okay, what exactly does that mean? Can you break that down?
Think of tung as the mental process. It's imagination, evaluation, projection. It's the lens we use to interpret everything that happens to us.
So how we see the world isn't just a direct recording.
Not at all. It's shaped by our level of understanding, by this constant process of evaluating everything. It's subjective.
Which really highlights why we need to keep developing our ability to understand, our cognitive capacity. And how do emotions fit into this perception game?
Well, strong emotions, particularly the difficult ones like greed, anger, delusion, they can seriously distort how we see things.
Cloud or judgment.
Exactly. They make it hard to see clearly, especially when we're just reacting instinctively.
And I guess the flip side is true too. If we can cultivate clearer perception.
Then we can loosen the grip those misleading emotions have on us.
Yeah.
Yes.
That makes sense.
As our understanding deepens, through gaining knowledge, gaining wisdom, our emotional responses tend to become less reactive, more grounded in reality.
And the danger is when our perception is off.
That's when wrong perception can lead straight to wrong emotions. A really clear example is prejudice. A distorted view of a group leads directly to feelings like hatred.
Wow. That really puts a lot of responsibility on us for our own perceptions and emotions that can be quite destructive.
Absolutely, both personally and, collectively.
The discussion also brings up something subtle about positive emotions.
Yeah, it suggests that even feelings we think are good, like maybe excessive attachment and love, can sometimes actually spring from a misunderstanding or an unmet need.
So even positive feelings need a closer look sometimes.
It seems so. Figuring out what's genuinely beneficial versus what's maybe just attachment in disguise. That often takes time, experience, and refining our understanding.
That's quite insightful. It connects nicely to the idea of just being present, being connected in the moment.
There's a lovely analogy used for this. Taking a shower.
A shower.
Yeah, that feeling of relaxation, of peace you often get, it's not just about getting clean. It's often because the physical sensation of the water gently pulls your awareness back into your body.
Ah, it grounds you.
Exactly. It creates this sense of presence. It's a simple example, but it shows how fundamental that mind-body connection is for our overall well-being.
Anchoring ourselves in the here and now. And practicing that must surely deepen our self-understanding over time.
Absolutely. It's this ongoing cycle, isn't it? Returning to your emotions, tending to them, seeing how they're tangled up with your body, your imagination, your consciousness.
It takes time, though.
Oh, definitely. Taipaninium really emphasizes that you need to dedicate significant time to this inner exploration. And the main goal, really, is unlocking those deeper layers of awareness about yourself.
He also talks quite openly about his own experiences, about hitting plateaus, feeling stuck sometimes, and needing renewal. It's actually quite reassuring to hear that.
It is. He describes actively looking for things to shake things up during those stagnant times, maybe finding a mentor, engaging with a community, or deliberately putting himself in challenging situations.
Like seeking out the difficulty.
Yes, he uses that beautiful metaphor of the plum blossom. It needs the cold, harsh winter to bloom spectacularly. Adversity can be a powerful trigger for breakthroughs.
And this isn't just spiritual talk, right? Science kind of backs this up.
Yeah, the idea of continuous growth aligns with what we understand about the brain's amazing plasticity, its ability to change and adapt. There's so much untapped capacity there.
Which brings us back to needing courage. The courage to step outside that box of perception we build for ourselves.
Definitely. The conversation points out that it takes real effort. Our brains like routine, they like predictability. Overriding that preference isn't easy.
That internal resistance is real. But they suggest the toughest challenge isn't getting advice from others.
It's honestly facing ourselves. Exactly. Real growth often happens in those quiet moments. When you're alone, mindfully engaging with simple things like Thuy Min shared about learning to enjoy eating a meal by herself.
Finding growth in the mundane. So what are some concrete steps we could take to start expanding, venturing out a bit?
Well, several practical things came up. One is consciously trying to limit those behaviors that kind of numb our awareness, like maybe too much phone scrolling.
Guilty as charged sometimes.
We all are. Another is deliberately practicing stillness and patience, maybe through silent listening, really listening to someone, or just spending quiet time in nature.
Small steps first.
Yeah, they emphasize gradually pushing your boundaries rather than trying to make huge leaps immediately, build momentum.
Like Thuy Min's example of just getting comfortable eating dinner alone first.
Exactly. It's about those small, consistent acts of breaking free. And the mindset you bring to it all is absolutely critical.
What kind of mindset?
It's fundamentally about reminding yourself constantly that how you see yourself right now isn't the final version. Your potential is huge. It's multifaceted.
Hidden talents, untapped abilities.
Dormant virtues even. And integrating all those different parts of yourself, looking at yourself holistically through introspection, that's key.
And maybe the biggest hurdle is letting go of those fixed ideas. Oh, that's just how I am.
Exactly, letting go of that. There's real encouragement in the conversation, drawn from personal experience, about the sheer joy you can find in that continuous process of growth, of breaking through limitations.
Trusting that potential.
Trusting your inherent potential, your inner resources. And that's not just about talent or intelligence. It includes your ethical qualities, your inner strength, too.
The discussion also touched on preparing for those really deep inner journeys. Tassimini mentioned his time in forest monasteries, living communally.
Right, and how those collective experiences were actually crucial for refining his ego.
How so?
Those settings really fostered self-awareness. They provided invaluable lessons in managing the ego, seeing it more clearly. He learned the power of community, of mutual support.
Building inner strength.
Yes, cultivating discipline, ethical conduct. These became the foundation, the inner scaffolding needed for later, more solitary exploration. He also stresses learning from the wisdom of those who came before.
Makes sense. Build a solid base first. Now, something very relevant for many of us today, FOMO, fear of missing out. How do you deal with that when you choose to spend time on self-reflection instead of being out there?
That's a huge point, isn't it? There's always that tension, the pull of external engagement versus the need for internal work.
Absolutely.
The conversation really underlines the value of consciously prioritizing that inner growth, even if it means saying no sometimes, missing out on some external things.
Recognizing that the inner work is just as, if not more, important. So what is it that actually pushes someone to break those boundaries, to strive for more?
Several powerful drivers were mentioned. One is simply being inspired by others, wise people, figures who act like a North Star for you.
Role models.
Exactly. Another is that deep inner feeling, that yearning for something more, a dissatisfaction with just staying average, maybe a sense of responsibility to your own potential.
Encourage, presumably.
And the courage to face your inner fears,
Yeah.
and make sacrifices for that growth.
Fuzzy Minyan shared something quite personal here, didn't he? About his own book.
Yeah, he felt the wisdom in the book was actually ahead of where he was personally at that time. That feeling ignited a desire to catch up, to understand more deeply, even though the path forward wasn't totally clear yet. He even mentioned the movie Into the Wild as sparking something.
So that drive can come from feeling a bit out of sync internally, like you know you're capable of more.
Precisely. Which leads to this interesting question they pondered. Are there basically two kinds of people? Those who are content staying put, and those who are just wired to grow.
What was the thinking there?
Well, they acknowledged that some people do find genuine contentment in their comfort zones, and they also considered individuals with conditions like Asperger's who might naturally prefer more enclosed, predictable spaces and need a lot of support to step outside.
So it's complex.
Very. It seems the desire for growth often comes down to individual perception and maybe needing the right kind of stimulus experiences or environments that spark that longing for something more.
But then you have examples like Greta Thunberg.
Right. A powerful reminder that conditions like Asperger's don't automatically limit huge impact if there's a really strong driving purpose.
Purpose and ideals. That seems key.
Absolutely crucial. Taïman talked about how his own ideals changed during his solitary time. From a general wish to help people suffer less to more concrete goals like setting up healing centers.
And feeling responsible.
Yeah, feeling a sense of responsibility to the people who believed in him.
So ideals evolve, they get clearer.
Just like the self-discovery process. And it was highlighted that purpose isn't just about specific jobs or big achievements. There's real value, real talent in just being a good listener or offering steady support to someone. It challenges those narrow societal ideas of success.
Broadening what it means to go beyond oneself.
Yes, it includes finding inner peace, happiness, becoming more compassionate, developing the ability to help and heal, to inspire others, to contribute to a better society. It's about tapping into those deep inner, maybe spiritual resources.
And this often starts with ourselves, then ripples outwards.
Usually, yeah. Nurturing your own well-being first, then extending that care to those closest to you.
They even talked about gauging the happiness of people around you. And Tasiminin gave some specific advice to Tuminen.
He did. He suggested incorporating meditation and mindfulness to find more inner peace, boost your energy, and ultimately do work that's even more impactful and uplifting for others.
Like adding layers.
Kind of. Adding qualities like gentleness, calmness, focused awareness to the skills and dedication she already had.
The conversation also touched on how time and plans can be quite fluid when you're on a growth path.
Right. Taïman shared how his own timeline for a long practice period kept shifting as new opportunities or insights came up. He mentioned a Vietnamese saying.
Ah, yes. Kushona taotha tuvidien.
Exactly. Living in the world, finding the way, going with the flow. It emphasizes the wisdom of staying open to unexpected paths.
Not being too rigid about your plans.
Yeah, being present to what's actually happening now, seizing opportunities, rather than clinging tightly to how you thought things should be. Sometimes you have to let go of the old to make space for the new.
And this idea of renewal, it's not just about massive life changes, is it?
Not at all. They stressed there are lots of ways to refresh yourself day to day, like taking time for mindful reflection in the morning, honestly looking at your strengths and weaknesses.
And planning for small changes.
Yes, consciously planning for incremental shifts. And also, seeking feedback from people you trust can give you a wider perspective.
Kassim also talked about his current focus, his current journey.
Yeah, focusing on setting up a healing center, guiding students. He described feeling like he's growing rapidly through doing that work,
A different kind of growth.
triggered by a deeper sense of responsibility, a strong desire to help. He even mentioned feeling supported by something larger, like heaven and earth. It seems this collective effort has, for now, taken the place of needing solitary retreat.
Interesting. And it sets up a future discussion.
Yeah, anticipating a final conversation about this idea of an omnipresent self.
Yeah.
Finding presence and impact through shared values, through seeing positive change in others, it really highlights how interconnected we all are.
Okay, so bringing our deep dive towards a close for today.
Okay.
Wow, we've covered a lot. This continuous journey of self-discovery, the power of emotional intelligence, expanding awareness.
Uh-huh. The crucial need to step outside comfort zones and rethinking what purpose even means beyond just traditional success metrics.
Absolutely. So as a final thought for you, the listener, to maybe chew on,
Yeah.
think about a box you might be in right now. Not necessarily a physical one, but maybe a box of perception, a limiting belief you've kind of accepted.
Okay.
What's one small, maybe slightly brave step you could take today, like today, just to peek over the edge of that box? What might your more than yourself actually look like?